Hello, and welcome to Let's Talk Trading, a show where I'll be talking with trusted and profitable traders to extract valuable insights about their journey, learn from their experience, and find out just what it takes to become a successful trader. I'm your host, Ruben Blamey, known as Ruben Blamey FX or RBFX on social media. I'm a full-time FOREX and commodity trader with over 5 years of experience and an investor in the crypto markets. My guest today is Rodrigo Antonio, known as Fiat and previously Pip Alchemist. Rodrigo is a Forex and cryptocurrency swing trader, also with over 5 years of experience, and an investor in property and equity index funds. Rodrigo describes himself as a Stoic and a student of Buddhism. So please, join me as we talk with our debut guest, where we'll be discussing Rodrigo's roller coaster journey into trading, learning from the mistakes he's made along the way, and finding out how he turned his biggest failures into even bigger opportunities. Rodrigo will be sharing with us his style of trading, and discussing what he thinks is necessary to be successful in the markets. A very interesting topic covered is meditation, and how Rodrigo applies this to his everyday life, in turn increasing his trading performance. This and much more to come, so enjoy the first episode of Let's Talk Trading. So Rodrigo, hello, welcome to the show. It's my pleasure really to welcome you as the first ever guest. It's been a while in the planning, so I'm very excited to finally be here talking to you. So yeah, welcome to the show, and I'm really looking forward to getting started here.
Thank you, Ruben. It's such an honor to be here. I've been really looking forward to it since you reached out to me. I've known of you for quite a few years, so it's really exciting to be able to share with you my journey, and obviously so that your listeners and hopefully people that follow both of us can learn a little.
Great. Obviously we've got a lot of people that are going to be interested in this because there's not really this sort of thing for our community. The Instagram community doesn't have this sort of thing. So I think that for people to know the people behind the actual names, because obviously I know you as another person on social media, but I don't know you too much in a personal level. So I think for myself and for everyone else, it's going to be really interesting to hear your story and know more about you as a trader, rather than just your social media profile, which is going to be brilliant.
Yeah, definitely, because social media just shows just one aspect of
one very small aspect, isn't it? And there's a lot more behind the scenes that people often don't actually know.
Yeah, no, I think especially on Instagram, all everyone sees it's just it's just the tip of the iceberg. They don't see the hard work that goes into it.
That popular sort of meme where you have the iceberg poking out the top of the sea and the rest of it's below.
Yeah.
I think that's the most real thing ever for trading, especially.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I think what we're going to start with, what I'd like to know actually, and what I think the listeners are going to want to know first, is first who you are as a trader, and then really your journey, because I think the journey is the most important thing. Because you can sort of talk to anyone and they can tell you where they are now, but to know where they've come from and sort of the work they've put in to get where they are is really inspiring, no matter who they are, no matter what they do. Not even just in trading, but anything. Everything involves hard work and it all involves a journey. So what we're going to do is delve into your journey, so where you started and what sort of brought you to where you are now. But to begin with, I just want to sort of know what sort of trader you are, because of course there's many styles of trading. There's 1,000 different ways to trade, and 1,000 different things to trade. So just briefly sort of give us an idea as who are you as a trader, and what is it you actually trade, and your sort of style of doing things.
Mm-hmm. So I'm a Forex trader, and I use both swing and intraday strategies. So I use technical analysis mostly to pinpoint where my entries and my exits are. Although I do look into the fundamentals, which kind of makes me a hybrid trader, I really do focus mostly on technical analysis and using price action strategies to sort of give me an idea of market sentiment and sort of like where the momentum is, where the volatility is.
Yeah.
So I use so I do that with Forex, and I've actually applied some of those strategies with cryptocurrency in the past year or so. So it seems to work quite well.
Okay. So you actually trade cryptos, and you don't just invest; you actually like properly trade them, like a CFD or a spread bet.
Only the top 5, I would say, that I trade because they're a lot more liquid. and a bit easier to exchange
Yeah, they're
on
very
certain.
volatile, but obviously not so much as the smaller altcoins that can move. Well, even these days when the market isn't so great, I think it would
Hmm.
be much easier to trade those big coins, as you say.
Yeah, yeah, and the exchanges that are available at the moment, it's just so easy to trade in and out of Bitcoin, for example, with a lot of other altcoins. So that's what I do using technical analysis,
Yeah.
and a lot is that there is a lot more fundamental analysis with cryptocurrency than I use with forex. So I'm probably 50-50 with crypto when
Okay.
it comes to being a hybrid trader.
So when you're trading crypto, we'll start off on that. You would say you're swing trading? Are you taking positions that last more than a day, or do you typically trade during the same day, like a day trader with that?
I use mostly swing trading methods, and I would hold trades for, I would say, between a few hours to maybe a few days, sometimes even months. I've got positions that I've held for months.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, using that sort of hold all strategy.
Yeah, the one that we're all trying to
um,
use at the moment.
yeah, yeah. It's just, but I realized that if you just adopt that one strategy, you're leaving money on the table.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I do. I use my profits to invest in index funds. So I use indices to help me determine when to go in and when to exit on index funds that follow equities, like global equities.
Yeah. Do you use indexes also for your forex trading, like the US dollar index or any kind of currency indexes?
Absolutely. I use them to give me sort of like I use it for correlation. So definitely, I use the US dollar to look at. Obviously, the dollar helps me trade
Yeah, that's
the
the same as me then. It's a
euro.
really useful tool, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I like to use gold to determine um, my bias on the Aussie dollar and also the US dollar. Um, I like to use the Japanese yen. I correlate it with the Japan 225,
Okay. Yeah,
and
you really
also
do
even
go hard with the indexes then.
yeah, yeah, definitely. It's just as you know, the Japanese yen is a safe haven. So when
Yeah,
there's
definitely.
trouble brewing in the world or equities are dropping, the yen seems to be that safe haven.
One
It gives
story
it
I always
strength.
found funny with the yen is how it's a safe haven currency, but even when there's troubles in Japan, it still goes up. It's literally the safe haven 100% of the time.
Yeah, it's brilliant, especially if you can use price action to determine when that strength is likely to happen, and then you can obviously see you can anticipate where price may reverse, so you'll be able to take your profits. And so I do like to trade the dollar yen. It's definitely one of my favorite pairs to trade.
Okay, that's great. Um, so you said you're a price action trader. Now, when it comes to things like indicators, etc., are you the type of trader that likes to use indicators, or would you say that you prefer to kind of keep things clean and just look at price itself?
I've learnt my lesson with indicators, and I've realized that most of the indicators that are available to retail traders are just not good, and they tend to cloud my judgment way too much. They tend to be quite shiny, quite colorful, and I realized that having a clean chart, it kind of follows a principle that I like to live by, where less is more.
Right.
So where I like to have a clean chart that not much on it at all. And what that does, it just allows my brain to focus on what's important as opposed to trying to calculate multiple sources of information where you tend to get confused, especially with lagged indicators.
Yeah, I mean, most
So,
indicators are lagging, aren't they? So they sort of tell you what's
mm,
happened in the past, and it's not really as useful as a lot of people think.
yeah, exactly. So for me, my my one and only indicator, I would say, is price action.
Yeah, yeah,
I use Japanese candlesticks.
yeah. Of course. So your actual charts are really quite simple and clean, which is what I found also is one of the best ways to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's brilliant. That's given us a good idea as to kind of who you are when you're actually trading. So now we know that. I'd like to kind of go into your journey. So if you can think back to the first days, so when you kind of first heard the word Forex, or you first saw that post on social media, however you got into it, take us back to that day and then bring us through your sort of journey from that start to where you are now. So what actually made you also stay at it? Because as you know, majority of people will fail. So what made you start it and actually think, right, I'm going to do this, I'm going to keep going even through all the failures, and now you are where you are. So yeah, take us through that journey and then sort of what's brought you to where you are today.
Well, it kind of all began when I absolutely just hated my life. I hated my lifestyle. I hated my day to day, working 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. I was in sales. So, oh man, it was just one of those very draining jobs where when you deal with people, you don't really deal with that person. You're just dealing with a number. You're dealing with commission. So it was soul depleting, and it just wasn't me. I was only doing it to get by in London. As you know, London is a very expensive city to live in.
It's not easy, is it?
So yeah, especially if you don't want to go through social housing, and you don't want to go through benefits, and you want to do it all on your own.
What age were you at that point?
About 20, 25.
Okay, yeah. So you really wanted to change how things were and be your own boss sort of thing. So take your life into your own hands, if you will.
Yeah, and well, before that, it was just you're just so stuck in the rat race that you don't even realize. You don't even have the time to realize. Hold on a minute, I'm not happy. I'm not content. I'm not doing something that I enjoy. I'm just getting by, and it just you kind of live for the weekend.
Yeah, so especially in the UK, obviously that's like a saying here, that you live for the weekend. You sort of work Monday to Friday, and you party at the weekend and start all again to save up the money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just got tired of that. I just got tired of living for the weekend. I got tired of just being broke, because in London, because you're working so hard, all you want to do is sort of have a distraction, and the easiest distraction is to have alcohol with your friends.
Yeah.
Drink some alcohol, smoke, and you have these sorts of distractions where are just not good for your health.
Yeah, you're not progressing either, right? You're always staying in the same place.
Yeah, exactly. It's just this average way of thinking, and for me, I think my biggest fear, even to this day, is to be average. Think average, to be average. It's just, for me, so I was slowly going through this paradigm shift, and I began to read self-help books by some of my favorite authors, like Tony Robbins, Eckhart Tolle, Napoleon Hill, Robert Kiyosaki, just to name a few. Of reading these books, and it just started to open my mind to the fact that, hold on a minute, this sort of rat race living, this job lifestyle, it's just not me, and there's much more than that. And so I started to Google how to make money online, and as you do.
Yeah, the results you get from that can be quite amusing, can't they?
Yeah, you get all sorts, and then something that just popped out of nowhere was to trade Forex. Okay. And so when I signed up, opened up a demo account and looked at all this shiny red and blue flickering colors and numbers everywhere, I had absolutely no idea what I was looking at.
Yeah, I imagine pretty much everyone can relate to that scenario.
Yeah, it was literally, that's how it started. So I didn't take it fully seriously at first, because I still had that sort of average mindset. I still had that routine. I still had that fear, fear of the unknown, and just that in my comfort zone, as you would say. I was just the comfort zone of having the routine of going to work, working really hard out. And at the time I was working for commission. So I wouldn't even do normal office hours. I would literally do 10, 11 hour days.
Wow.
just to hit my targets.
Yeah.
And I would come in on a Saturday as well, just to make sure that I get most of the business, and you get all this pressure from your employer to hit your KPIs. So yeah, it was just it was very intense, and it just got to the point where I was like, nope, I have to do something about
Yeah, you
it.
have to change.
Something had to change. So then eventually, my cousin, who decided to somehow out of nowhere decided to do a course in Canary Wharf, a rather expensive course.
Yeah.
And then he told me all about it. And I realized, hold on a minute, I'm trying to get into this as well. So we got together, and he started showing me what he was taught. And in hindsight, we realized he was only just taught support and resistance.
Okay.
And so
Yeah, so it
that's
was one of
kind of
those type of situations.
one of those type of expensive courses. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just disappointing to say the least, but it gave us the opportunity, and it opened our minds to technical analysis, and
Yeah, you
that's
sort of
when
peeked your head through the door and saw what was possible.
yeah, exactly. So maybe he did get his money's worth.
Yeah,
You
in the long
never
run.
know. So that's when I realized, okay, I can do this. So we started obviously practicing the strategies, random strategies to use technical analysis on a demo account. We did really well. We flipped accounts. I felt like a demo god, honestly.
Yeah, so
I
you,
think,
you were flipping money that didn't exist,
yeah,
basically. Yeah.
but you then tend to procrastinate. You tend to then dream the lifestyle that could potentially be real if you were using real money.
Yeah, so you saw the
Not
numbers in that demo account and you imagined what life would be like if they weren't just, fake numbers.
exactly, yeah, exactly. You start to look at all the watches, all the cars that you want,
Yeah.
um, and yeah. So you about 3 months into trading demo, flipping accounts, I got the courage to invest in my first account. I think it was about £800. So I think I saved up for about 3 months to get that £800.
Yeah.
And yeah, within 2 weeks it was gone,
Oh,
completely
wow.
gone. Yeah,
I think that's
it
back in the day when there was lots of leverage available.
exactly. And it was gone so quick. It was so painful.
Yeah.
I still remember the pain to this day. And so I thought, you know what? Let me keep going. So I went back to demo, and it was just like that. It was saving up a little bit, going back in, losing it, going back again, until I think I decided at one point that what was actually affecting my performance was the fact that I had to work so many hours and try and fit trading around my job. So I thought to myself, hold on, let me just prioritize my trading,
Yeah.
and 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 literally just sacrifice having no money.
So you really did
And
take a big gamble, a big risk there.
I took a big risk because I realized if I can get this right, I don't I don't have to go back to sort of that 9 to 5 or sales job lifestyle.
Yeah.
I can turn this into a living.
And here you are
And
now. You haven't
so
been back. It's great.
yeah, it's amazing. And at the time, my I met a girl who was just absolutely amazing, and to this day, she's now the mother of my daughter.
Yeah, so that one
She
risk turned into a huge reward.
exactly, yeah. I met her, and she did the most amazing thing for me. She said to me, "Look, you can stay with me whilst you learn to trade, and I'll cover the bills."
Okay, that's a very unique situation. That's amazing, really.
Very, very unique situation. So it was just, she believed in me, and I believed in me. She knew I believed in myself. She saw the potential, because I would flip accounts. I'll do really well, but then, I'll give it back a few weeks later or whatever. But, she saw that what the problem was, and the problem was me working so
Yeah.
hard, and trading whilst I was tired.
That's
and
actually one
trade.
really interesting point, though. I just want to skip back a bit to that demo thing because obviously, when you were trading the demo, when you were flipping those accounts, you were still in the same routine. So, what do you think? Why do you think it was different when you went to a live account?
The emotions, the attachment to the money. It was the fact that I was working so hard to save up for my trading accounts. So I would, it took a lot to be able to save up just £500, and then obviously you still have to pay your rent, you still have to cover your food, your travel costs,
Yeah.
and I wasn't earning a huge amount. It was just the average amount, the average sort of London wage. So as you know, it's not a lot.
No, especially not with the living cost there. It's insane. So, yeah, no, it
Yeah,
definitely makes sense.
so it's just that emotional attachment to my capital, the fact that I worked so hard to save up, that when I was actually trading it, it was pure emotional trading. It was a roller coaster of emotions. It was when I was up, it was incredible, exhilarating, euphoric, and
Yeah.
when I was down, it was painful. It was depressing. It's really depressing.
I suppose when you think about it, if you have like an account, say £800, and you've saved up for that by working in a job, then when you risk a certain amount of money, it's sort of like you're risking those hours of your life that you spent. So I can imagine why it would be very like downheartening to see those hours disappear for nothing, basically.
Exactly. But you know what? I never gave up. Each time, each loss, each trade, I was learning from it. And from an early part of my trading sort of career, I've been journaling. So I've always kept a journal in one form or another. So I've always tried to learn from my failures. And what that helped me to do is just improve every single time, improve, and so to this day I still journal, and now my journals are a lot more detailed, a lot more concise, and purposeful.
Okay.
There's a
Yeah, that's something we'll definitely
I,
get to, is to look
yeah,
at your
yeah,
routine in terms of journaling. One
yeah.
thing I want to ask then, because obviously a lot of people that are listening, some of them are going to be brand new, some of them are going to be in that position that you were in, albeit with their own different variations. So when it comes to a demo account, obviously I've got my own opinions, but I'd like to know what you think about it. Would you say that there's any point in ever using a demo? Because if you're not getting those real emotions, is it better to just go straight in to the live account?
No, I would not advise that. And over the years, because I've been teaching myself. I've had students, and over the years, in the beginning, it is important to trade demo, and for multiple reasons. One of those reasons being is just it's getting used to the platform, getting used to executing trades in and out. And once that becomes,
Oh yeah, of course,
you know,
definitely in that way, definitely, yeah.
yeah, that's just one aspect of it. So just create that new memory, create those brain connections, those neural connections that don't exist yet. And once you've got that, then it's testing a strategy. You have to be able to test one strategy at a time. And even to this day, in the last few weeks, I was testing something different, and I used a demo account. So I still use demo on as well as my live trading, but with demo, it's really good to test. And once you're confident with a strategy, then I think it is important to trade an amount that you are willing to lose.
Yeah, I think a lot of people
Because
stay
then,
on demo for way too long.
yeah, because what then happens with that is the longer you stay with demo, it's almost like a comfort zone. It's and you want to be able to do the real thing. It's like saying you want to be a footballer, but all you do is play FIFA, but you
Yeah,
never
that's a
go
good
to the
example.
park. You never go to the park to actually play football or any sort of physical training. All you do is play FIFA on the PlayStation.
Yeah,
It's like that. You have to be able to enter the arena. You have to be able to go into battle and take the hits. You have to be willing to lose often, and you
Yeah,
have
I
to be
definitely
able
would
to
agree with that.
accept those losses.
I think it's very important as well for people that might be listening that are new to it, is that when you do
Hmm.
open that live account, like you just said, only put in what you can afford to lose.
Yeah, that's so key. It's absolutely key because I've made the mistake of not doing that, and I remember in the beginning of my journey, well, a year, I would say like a year or two in, I I asked my mum because I kind of I've run out. I blew my account. I blew many accounts, but I asked my mum for some money, and because I was kind of blinded to the fact that no, this time it's going to work. This time will happen, and I actually promised her. I said I'm gonna flip this. I'm gonna be able to pay you back within a few months, and then
That's a very
I'll
risky
be
one.
giving you yeah, and then I'll be able to give you this much every month as long as I make 10% a week, whatever. So, oh man, this was literally, I think, my biggest one of my biggest failures, and I actually, when I blew that account, I actually fell into depression.
So did you blow
It
the
was
account that was the money given to you by your mum?
yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It was,
Wow.
and it was her savings as well.
Wow.
And she's always had low paid jobs. We're talking like minimum wage
Yeah, it
jobs,
certainly
and
wasn't
so
expendable capital.
yeah, exactly. It was money that not only I couldn't afford to lose, she couldn't afford to lose. So it was
Yeah.
just when I lost that, and then I had to just tell her the truth. It was just, oh, it was one of the hardest things I ever had to do. And
Well, the fact that you still carried on going after that and you ended up being to where you are, I mean, I think everyone's going to give you a big respect for that because that's incredible.
oh man, it is. Thank you, but just remembering, it was so tough. It was such a dark time, and I realized years later that it was my biggest because of that failure. It was actually my biggest opportunity because at that time is when I discovered meditation. So that's when I
Okay.
started reading books by Eckhart Tolle, who um, who would talk about mindfulness, who writes about meditation and breathing techniques. And so I started applying these to my day-to-day life on a daily basis to help me with my depression. And then, but because I started getting such good results from it, pretty much instantly, I started to realize, hold on a minute, I can apply this to my trading.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
that's when things started to change.
Yeah, that's interesting. We'll definitely come on to that, which will be very
Hmm.
interesting to know. So no, that's really good. I mean, your journey's obviously everyone has their own unique journey, but I think yours is a definitely one that will stand out when people hear this because obviously you've been to the very lows and you've been to the highs. So that's brilliant. Thanks for sharing in such good depth.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so what I'd like to go on to now then is obviously we know about your journey, and we know about the sort of not the bad things that happened, but they were bad, but they turned good because they gave you that drive to continue and to get where you are now. But what I'd really like to talk about is the highs because we know the lows, we know what spurred you on. But what would you say? It doesn't even have to be the biggest like monetary gain, but what was that first trade where you had a good win and you thought, hang on, this is like this can really work. What was that kind of like aha moment when you took whatever trade it was and you thought, right, I think I'm on the path to actually making something out of this?
Ooh, I don't think there was necessarily any one trade. I think it was just when I realized that my process was my edge. It was that moment when it was like a paradigm shift when I realized it just doesn't matter what price does. It doesn't matter whether this trade is a winner or a loser. What matters is that I follow my process. I follow my strategy. I review my performance on a regular basis, and I just keep doing that over and over again. And over time, my edge will play out. And I think having not only a technical edge, so through understanding price structure, through
Yeah.
understanding price action, and using correlation to determine to put the odds in your favor that bit more, and to follow a technical methodology that is, you take every signal that you get, you take it, regardless of how you feel, regardless of your previous trade. For me, that's probably, it was the biggest high when I realized that. And every time, whenever I have those emotional roller coaster moments, whenever I have those string of losses, I always just remember the fact that as long as I keep following this process, eventually I will win. And somehow it comes true. It just happens.
Yeah, once you trust your own way of doing things, it sort of slowly builds itself up.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not really just about what happens with the trading itself. It's what happens outside of the trading. It's what happens. It's the type of principles and values you live by. It's how you take care of your body and your mind. So that when I had that paradigm shift, I think that was probably my greatest achievement, my greatest win.
Okay. So your win wasn't a monetary one; it was like a kind of mental one.
Exactly. Yeah, it was that paradigm shift, I would say.
So how long would you say it took you then, roughly? How long does it take you to go from literally like starting off on day one to becoming consistent, actually making something of this?
I would say it took me about 2.5, maybe 3 years.
Okay, yeah.
And which is quite a long time. But then when you come to think about it, it felt like a long time, but it wasn't compared to other careers. So when you compare it to, I don't know, let's say a doctor, let's say, or even a footballer, to become a footballer is very competitive, but so is Forex, so is trading in general.
Yeah, but it's different, I suppose, because you're competing always just with yourself.
Yeah, you are, but you're also competing with the smart money. You're competing with
of course,
institutions that have more information than you, that have more money than you. You're dealing with traders that are smarter, faster.
Yeah, that's that good saying, isn't it? The quote about all those different things, how we're like the very, very small fish, and I don't think people realize what goes on really in the markets. Yeah, it's really quite scary when you think of the what the institutions can do and what they know, and we're just there looking at candlesticks. It seems, when you think about it, absolutely crazy how it can even work. But we do have somewhat of an edge over those places, over those companies, etc., because we can trade small amounts of money and trade in a different way.
Exactly.
So in terms of your that was your sort of your moment. So that's when you found out that you can do this. So when you were at your high, or now, even now, what you're doing. Now you're confident in the way that you trade. If you could somehow go back and say to the younger Rodrigo and speak to him, what would you say now to stop you from taking the path you took with the losses? What would be your advice to yourself back then, and then sort of relate that to people that might be listening now that are new or struggling?
Oh, well, I would say just understand that trading is very competitive in terms of who you're up against, but also if I could just talk to myself back then, it's just to realize that you can't enter this game with an average mindset. You have to be able to work on your mindset from the beginning, and don't try to sort of swim with the sharks, especially when it's such deep waters. It's just such a difficult thing to do, to be able to trade consistently, and so the moment you enter trading, you kind of already lost the battle if you don't have that sort of mindset, because you have beliefs, cognitive biases, and unconscious behaviors that you've kind of gained from early childhood that you don't really know you even have. and so when you step into the game of trading, if I could go back, and I would say just be aware of what you're doing, and don't try to run when you can't even crawl yet. So that's what I would probably say to anyone deciding to start. So I think self-education is key, and what led to my consistency and my success is my relentless attitude to self-education. I was, during that time when I was living with my partner, man, I thought to myself, you know what, if I can work 50 to 60 hours a week for someone else, if I can do that, I can do that for myself. So I literally spent that much time studying, practicing.
Yeah, that's powerful. Yeah, you're basically taking all that you did before and you're saying, right, I can do that for myself, and that's going to be a much better outcome than making someone else rich.
Exactly. And I think that really did help, having all that chart time, all that study time, just educating myself through practice and through developing principles and values. I was reading books by, it was The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Oh yeah, I know the one.
And just those kind of books that just open your mind so much and it makes you realize that you know nothing.
Right.
And
I haven't actually read it. I need to read that.
Oh, you need to. It's really good. It's actually quite digestible on audio, as an audiobook.
Yeah.
It's one of those books that I think I've heard. Well, I've listened to it like 3 times already. I read it once and I've listened to it like 3 times on Audible. It's that powerful. I would really do recommend it.
Yeah, I'd certainly look into that. I've got a question that might be a bit sort of controversial, right? But do you think that anyone can trade, or do you think that some people will just never be able to hack it? Like, do you think there's a certain personality that you need to have to be able to be a success in trading, or do you think that everyone's a blank slate, like anyone can learn?
I do think that anyone can learn as long as they live by if they're willing to endure the pain and willing to fail and accept those failures and are willing to see those failures as opportunities to constantly improve. And for those that don't see this as a get rich quick career, I think it's down to your mindset and how you are willing to develop a mindset, the right trader's mindset. I think, and it comes down to, like I was saying, self-education. If you're willing to constantly educate yourself, constantly be a student of the market, a student of life, a student of certain principles and philosophies, then definitely I think anyone can apply themselves. It just takes it, but because there's such a rare drive, that's why so many people fail. Yeah. Because it takes a certain type of caliber. It's not necessarily a certain personality, because I've come across many traders and they all have different personalities. We all have different personalities. We all have different ways of thinking. We all obviously have a unique way of seeing and perceiving the world. So I do believe anyone can do it. It just takes a certain attitude.
Yeah, it's the attitude and the mindset more than the personality, then.
Yeah,
that's very good. So yeah, hopefully I think a lot of people would have taken a lot of value from that, because lots of people are going to be in those sorts of positions. And yeah, I mean, this is really good to hear about those sorts of things from you and your journey. I mean, right now, obviously I'm assuming you're happy with where you are in your trading, but would you say that you're still learning now?
Absolutely. Like I said in the beginning, I'm still testing new strategies. I'm still adapting, and there are times when you are forced to learn new things. So, for example, when I started trading and investing in cryptocurrency, man, I put so much time into studying cryptocurrency that I even stopped trading FOREX for some time, just to focus on trading and investing in crypto. So yes, I'm still learning, and I'm always going to be a student of the market. I'm always going to be applying myself, because that's what helped me with my consistency. And I do believe constantly self-educating yourself is, and even not just self-education, but I think it's also important to find like-minded individuals, or even a mentor, someone that has been through the failures.
Definitely.
And you know, it's a few more chapters ahead of you in their journey. So having a mentor, which unfortunately I never had, and I'm actually looking into it myself now, all these years later. I want to have a mentor, because I've realized it's so powerful to have one. And I would say that my mentors are all the books that I've read.
Yeah, so you
That's
don't
where
even have to like have spoken to your mentor. A mentor can be someone that you just get kind of indirect value from.
Exactly. So for me, that's where I've kind of had my guidance through, is in the books that I've read, and obviously practicing those lessons that I've learned.
Yeah.
But to have somebody who you can synergistically interact with, and they you know, you're sharing your weaknesses and strengths, and you're synergistically working together to find solutions, and for them to keep pushing you, that I think it's so valuable. And if you can find a good mentor who has, let's say a good course, and excellent sort of you know, has got
someone who can help and guide you and just show you, you know, what they've learned. And I think it saves a lot of time. It saves people money in the long run, which is very good. That's definitely something people should look at, is finding a mentor. But I think the most important lesson from that for people that are listening, especially the new ones, is that even when you've been trading, like for example, you've been trading for what, 6 years, you say?
No, less than that.
Okay, about 5 years, you say?
Yeah.
So even someone that's been trading for 5 years, they're still learning. Like, you never stop learning. So if you're starting and you think that, you know, all you do is you learn, you start doing it, and that's it, you're done, you carry on. It's not the way it is. You know, you're always learning. The markets change, things change, and you have to always adapt to that, which is really important. So what I'd like to talk about now is your routine. So I know you mentioned, I think it was towards the beginning, that you started to get into meditation, and that helped you a lot. So before we get into sort of the trading routine, before we talk about what you do on a daily basis, tell us a bit more about how meditation, like how does that actually affect trading? It's a very different thing. So how does meditation and even yoga, if you think it does, how do those two things actually come into trading?
Well, I think meditation, and for me in particular, when I first discovered it, what it did, it relieved the pain. So I was, like I shared with you earlier, I was in a dark place, and when I began to meditate, I actually felt relief from the pain. It was almost like an escape. So when I started to apply that to my trading, I realized that I was becoming more aware. So for me, the practice of meditation is just the practice of deep breathing, but it's mostly the practice of mindfulness, of being aware of the space within you and around you. And when you apply that to your trading, it's so powerful, because with trading now, when you're in front of the chart, there is so much chaos. There is so much information.
Yeah, definitely.
And sometimes you have to act so quick. But amongst all that chaos, if you can find composure and you can be calm, you can actually see order in the chaos. You can begin to see structure. And I think having a meditation practice for a few minutes in the morning, it basically trains your mind. You actually creating neural connections that train you to be calm in chaotic situations and be able to focus and be aware on one task at a time. So you can actually meditate through one Buddhist author, very famous author. I can never pronounce his name. I won't try.
Okay.
he
I can put
he
it in
said
a
you can,
connotation or something, annotation.
yeah, Thich Nhat Hanh or something like that.
Okay.
And he said you can actually meditate whilst washing the dishes, hanging the clothes. And as long as you're just aware and do it in slow motion, any sort of task like that, you are actually meditating.
Okay, yeah, I think a
So,
lot of people will be put off on meditating because they think it's going to kind of take up valuable time in the day. But if you can do it at the same time as actually getting something done, then that sort of is very different to what people may think.
yeah, you can actually practice meditation every waking minute of your day. And that is just through practicing mindfulness. It's just being aware of your feelings, being aware of your thoughts, and just being aware of your actions, being aware of your environment, that and the subtleness of everything. That is mindfulness. That is meditating. So I've tried. I, I do try to apply that to just my general day to day,
Okay.
and it all comes from like, like Buddhist teachings, which and practices that for me I do love to learn and adopt Buddhist philosophies into my life as a more of a philosophical and spiritual
Yeah, so it's not
aspect.
just kind of affecting your trading; it's just helping you in general, and
Yeah,
that's kind of
exactly.
passing over into the trading.
Mm.
Yeah. So
And
when
another
you, oh, sorry, go on.
and another philosophy that complements uh, Buddhism is Stoicism. So Stoicism is more of self-reviewing yourself on a constant basis. So again, you're aware of your thoughts, you're aware of your actions, and trying to apply certain principles and values instead of having emotional, impulsive actions actions and thoughts and words. You actually just follow certain principles.
Well,
And
that's
so I've
basically
adapted.
trading, isn't it? You don't act on your impulses, your emotions. You have to follow that process.
Exactly. So when I was learning all these things and then realize how I can apply it to my trading, that's when I started to have that shift in thought, that shift in mindset.
So after you've done your meditation, that's when you sort of can go to the charts and you feel a lot more. Is it just like mental clarity? You can sort of see things much clearer and you feel more relaxed, I suppose.
Yeah, it is. I think it's so important to be relaxed and to have clarity before you chart. And after my meditation, once my mind is clear, I would say, about a minute to 2 minutes visualizing my day. I'm literally visualizing my setups. And because I'm always checking the charts, I kind of know where everything is, but I visualize what was going to happen. And if price gets to X, then I am going to perform Y. So
Yeah.
I have sort of clear visualization of how I'm going to do that. And if I have certain tasks or goals that I have for that day, I visualize it all.
Yeah, even
And
if it's not related to trading, it's just everything in one.
everything in one. And to finish it all off, I practice gratitude. So I'm grateful for all the things that we take granted for, like roof,
Oh, okay, yeah.
water, bed, these kind of sort of basic things. And sort of, I'm also, I sometimes I go into visualizing my certain material things that I want, or certain lifestyle experiences that I want for myself and my family.
Like a mental
And
vision board type thing.
yeah, and I actually have a vision board. I need to make a new one because I've kind of ticked off everything on it.
Well, right, well done.
Yeah, no, thank you. This was when just after my 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 dark time, I
Yeah.
just decided to do this.
Well, no,
When
certainly I imagine it would help you. It's not something I've ever done, but I imagine it's something that would
yeah,
spur you because you know exactly what you want, and you know that
yeah,
you need to keep going to get that, which is really
yeah.
interesting. Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah, I've
brilliant.
always
It's
had it. I've always had it in my peripheral. I don't really look at it often much, but I just have it there on this. It's in the kitchen now, but it's on my peripheral. I never really stare at it.
yeah, no, that's good. So yeah, now we've talked about your meditation and your sort of your mindfulness routine. Take us through your trading routine. So what you do on a daily basis when you first go on that chart, what you start off doing and how you end your day. And also if you do like a weekly analysis session or whatever your sort of way of doing things are, just take us through your process on like a day-to-day and week-to-week basis.
Yeah. So once I've done my morning ritual and maybe a bit of exercise as well, I go through my watch list. So my watch list are pairs that I've been looking at during the weekend. So during the weekend, I would spend some time going through the FX market, going through sort of anything that looks like a potential setup, and I would just create a watch list on TradingView. So I'll flag anything that I do like, and then during the week, I go into those with a lot more detail. So once prices, obviously, once the market is open, I look for the trading setups that I was looking for on the weekend. I'm looking whether any alerts have been triggered, and when there is something that does look like a good setup, and say my alerts have been triggered, and then I can see potential price action forming on the time frames that I'm looking at, I then go into my trading plan. So I use Evernote for my trading plan.
It's very, very good software.
It's brilliant, and so I've got all my tags and my notebook in there and everything. So
do you download it or do you use the online version?
I download it. I use the desktop Windows version, and I use it on the Android on my phone.
Okay, that's very good.
When I don't have access to those, I'll use the web version, but that's just as a backup. So yeah, so when I go through my trading plan, it's almost like a checklist. So my trading plan. Let me bring it up quickly to see if I can share a little bit with what it looks like.
Without revealing your deeper secrets.
It's so I begin with certain statements, and so when I read out these statements, I read them out loud to myself. I tick them off with those little tick boxes that Evernote give you. I love them. When I finish reading those out, I then just have in a table my risk management rules, and I've then got another table where I paste the URLs of all my charts using TradingView, and then I go into confluences of that particular setup. So although I've got the actual setup of a particular strategy that I'm using, I use confluences. So I tick off all the confluences based on 3 different time frames that I use. I use the daily, the 4-hour, and the 2-hour. And so once I go through all those confluences, I then I got another table that looks at research, so like fundamentals, and also any correlations, and I make notes on those. I then have another table that goes through my exit strategy. So I go through where my stop loss is going to be, where I will break even, where I'll be taking my profits, and then it goes down to then my target gains for that particular week, that particular trade, and a drawdown. If this is a loss, then I'll limit my loss by following this particular trade. And at the end, I've got these statements that I read out. Again, I read out loud just to remind me of them when I'm actually in the moment of the trade. So because the emotions start to rise. Yes, exactly. These are affirmations. I call them my golden rules and my trading commandments. So I'll give you an example.
Commandments, okay. Are they written on stone slabs?
But you know what? That's not a bad idea. I'll share one of them with you. I would say one of them is, I will maintain my psychological capital at optimal levels through my well-being.
Wow,
I am not addicted to trading just to see what happens. I will only trade.
Lots of people.
Yeah, I've got another. I will only trade high reward setups that have the probabilities in their favor. And actually, I'll give you one more. I will be a bricklayer, making the same type of trades over and over again. So these are just some of the ones I've got. And so I read those out, I tick them off, and then I execute my trade. So it seems like a lot,
Yeah, I
but
mean, that's obviously it's your way
literally
of doing things, but
it
it's
literally
obviously
takes
powerful.
me 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, which
And
when you think
so
about it is nothing really.
yeah, so what I'll do is 5 to 10 minutes before the candle of of the time frame that I'm going to use to execute the trade, I'll go through my trading plan, and I like to do that right before the trade when the feelings and emotions are fresh. So once I go through that, then I execute the trade. So executing the actual trade is probably the part of my process that I like to spend the least amount of time on,
Okay.
because I like to place the trade. I use MetaTrader, place my trade, and then I don't like to look at the MetaTrader. I then go back to TradingView to look at what's happening.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Certainly, when you place a trade, that's the time where you should be spending the least time because that's when you start overthinking, you start second guessing, and you start looking at things
Exactly.
that don't actually exist.
And you become so impulsive,
Yeah.
and it's just because of these sort of cognitive biases that we are so prone to naturally.
Yeah, because you can do
So
as much preparation as you like, but no one can, like cheat biology or cheat their brain.
exactly, you can't. But so then following this strict process helps me so much. So once I execute the trade, I then go into my trading journal, and in my trading journal, I use this really awesome trading journal by Trade Wonk,
Oh yeah,
Edge Wonk,
edge
sorry.
wonk. Yeah.
Edge Wonk, yeah. So their trading journal is so comprehensive. It's very affordable and it's just brilliant. So I use their trading journal. I like to do everything manually. Like they've got an option to import all your data, but I like to actually do it manually because it hurts more.
It
It's
hurts
quite
more. Okay, yeah.
it hurts more, especially when you've got a losing trade or an
Yeah, you can't just
impulsive
automatically
trader.
click one button and it's there. You have to actually type in, I lost that trade.
Yeah, or you have to automatically trade. This was not in my trading plan, and you're just like, oh my god, this is
Yeah.
not my. So
Yeah, that
you
does
know,
hurt.
it's just. So I do that, and then I wait to see what happens with the trade. Um, so with that journal entry and my trading plan, it gives me an opportunity to then review my performance at the end of the day. So at the end of the day, I review my performances and I give myself a score. So I look at quite a few metrics, and I do give myself a score at the end. So throughout the whole sort of day, I try to eat well, eat clean, keep myself hydrated, drinking at least 2 liters of water. I try to avoid coffee. I see coffee more as a reward. So I try to drink coffee maybe twice a week max. And if I have a string of good losers, I'll reward myself. And one of those rewards is coffee.
Okay. Actually, one
But
thing I want to say before I forget, because I was going to ask you this, but I didn't. With your trading, what's your sort of
mm,
strategy for spending your profits? Because I know some people have the sort of debate over is it better to compound the account? Is it better to take some money out? I mean, obviously you need to, but in a nutshell, what's your sort of strategy for spending your profits? What do you actually do with the money you make?
you have to spend your profits as well as you have to compound.
Yeah, best of both
So
worlds.
I think it kind of depends on how much I make, but I would say as a guideline, I like to follow like an 80-20 principle. So I like to compound 80% of my profits and withdraw 20%. So I try to do that on whenever I sort of have a string of wins. So it could sometimes I'm withdrawing weekly, sometimes it's bi-weekly.
Okay, so you do have quite a high
Sometimes,
compounding ratio there.
yeah, I try to compound as much as possible, but it depends if for example, I've got a big outgoing happening, I may do a 60-40. So I'll compound 60% and I'll leave 14. So I'm always compounding more than I withdraw. That
Yeah.
ensures that I have some sort of cushion and protection if I suddenly have a losing streak.
Is that the same for crypto also?
It's the same with crypto, but with crypto, because it's highly speculative, I don't have much of my net worth in it, so I tend to sort of compound it more because it's higher risk. And so when I do make withdrawals, it depends on how the market is. So I use so when I make withdrawals, it's a bit different with crypto because there's quite a lot of steps to take
Yeah, it's not as
in order
easy as just
for
submitting
it
a
to
request.
reach for it to reach your account. So I use Wirex. Wirex they give you a debit card, so you have your Bitcoin wallet or Ethereum wallet or even Ripple, and you just transfer your coins into these wallets, and then they get exchanged using Visa, so you can actually use it as contactless anywhere in
Okay,
the
yeah, I've
world.
seen a couple of those. Yeah,
So that's probably what I do with crypto. It's actually something that it's just pretty amazing
yeah,
what
no,
you
that's
can do.
brilliant.
So,
It's good to know what you do. So to finish off, then I think the last thing I want to ask is your daily routine. We got that. We know sort of what you do from when you wake up to when you finish, which is great. And what about your weekly thing? Do you have like a Sunday evening analysis or a Friday evening thing?
yeah, so my Friday evenings I spend on a weekly review. So this is not necessarily trading related. It's mostly just my general tasks, my paperwork, my notes, everything, my emails. I do this on a Friday evening. And then I go through my calendar and I plan my next week, so I know exactly what's happening the following week. During the weekend, I do go through my trading journal as a weekly review of my performance, and I look at all the lessons learned from all my sort of losing and even my winning trades. So I do write down what lessons I've learned.
Yeah, there's always
And
lessons to learn, even from the winners.
yeah, absolutely. And so that's cool. I do definitely do that I have to do that on the weekends, because if I don't, at the times when I haven't, I don't perform as well during the week. And that's because, again, it goes back to process. And one thing that I've learned is you must trust the process. Even when you can't be bothered, even when you don't understand it, just trust the process, and eventually
Eventually it will click and you'll start to realize what your process is, because everyone's got their own one. They need to find it. So no, that's definitely true.
and that's what will give you an edge.
Yeah. That's great. I think we can safely say that was a really good chat. I think there's lots of incredible lessons that can be learned there from anyone, even experienced people, even experienced traders, and to be honest with you, lessons that aren't related to trading also, things that people can take away just for general life experience. So I really do want to thank you for that, because it was a brilliant chat, and credits to you for what you've done, what you've been through, and where you've got to today.
Yeah, no, and thank you, Ruben, for what you're doing. Honestly, I'm very grateful to be able to share my journey, and hopefully the listeners of this podcast in years to come will have some sort of value. So
No doubt.
I think what you're doing is brilliant, honestly.
Is there anything you would want to say to, just as like an ending note to the people that are listening? Is there like a final note?
I would probably say just just trust the process. Create a process that is tailored to your lifestyle, your personality, something that is not necessarily pleasant. It's actually quite quite painful. So having something like a journal, a trading journal and a life journal, like a personal journal, is so powerful. Having a meditation practice, whether it's listening to a great piece, reading poetry, or just be practicing mindfulness and focusing on your breathing whilst you're washing the dishes. If you have that
simple things that can really make a difference.
It's very simple things, and it goes back to that philosophy we spoke about earlier. That's where less is more.
Yeah.
So, and just be prepared to change. Be prepared to change, because you have to be willing to sacrifice who you are for what you'll become.
That was really good. So again, thank you very much. We'll no doubt speak again soon.
Okay. Thank you, Ruben.
Brilliant. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this interview and gained valuable knowledge. Please subscribe for later interviews and share if you think others could gain value from this. Leave a like and a comment to let me know what you thought. You can follow Rodrigo on his Instagram account at Fiat as displayed, or Twitter at Rodrigo Antonio, and you can follow me on at RubenBlameyFX. I'll see you on the next interview.